So the invitation here is just to drop any ideas about attainment or, getting to some higher state or doing anything to manipulate our experience. And just see what shows up when we're not trying to change our experience. Just see what's already present. So we can notice as we're just sitting here that there's some auditory input, some sounds, right? We can hear the fans. We don't have to form an opinion about whether we like the sound or we don't, or we just take it as just an auditory input. And we can also hear the sound of the birds. And we can treat those sounds in exactly the same way, just hearing the sound without any interpretation. We don't have to name the birds. We don't have to want more or less or different. You can just allow those sounds to be exactly as they are. You can also notice the sensation just of sitting. Whatever points of the body are being supported by the chair or the floor. Just notice just the sheer physicality of it. Again, without needing to interpret it or change it or wish it were different. Just the direct physical sensation of the body being supported at various points. Is how that sensation feels at those points of contact with the body. You can also notice that we're breathing. It's not necessary for this purpose this morning to breathe in any particular way. Just the important thing is just to notice the breath, however that feels, and just allow it to be comfortable, without trying to change it or manipulate it or make it be as you think it should be. Just however it is just fine. But just feel how the sensation of that in your body, the sensation of the air moving through your nose, perhaps the coolness of it on the in-breath, a little warmer on the out-breath. Movement of the chest or the belly with the breath. And while we're breathing, we can still notice that we're still able to hear. And we're still able to notice the sensation of sitting. Okay, if we don't restrict our focus to any one of those, we can notice all of those sensations at the same time. So the breath, bodily sensation of sitting, the sound. So perhaps we can also notice some internal sensation. Let's pick a body part. Let's pick our right hand, and without moving it or changing our touch, but just sense into the right hand and see if there's a sense of aliveness there, a sense of knowing that it is at the end of your arm. And just shift our attention there. Perhaps there's just a sensation of maybe tingling or a little of internal energy movement, perhaps. Whatever it is, or maybe there's no such sensation, and that's fine too. But perhaps there's just that sensation of, without being able to pinpoint it, some sense of aliveness that's present there. So in exactly the same way as we're considering these various sensory inputs, sound, movement of the body with the breath, sensation of sitting, internal sensory experience of the hand, we can also notice that there is, or maybe the experience of thought happening. And we can treat that in exactly the same way. Just allow it to be as it is without the attempt to manipulate it. Just notice it as just another sensory input. We can do the same with any feelings that might arise. Maybe there's also the smell of, earthiness, fresh air. So all of these sensations, both external and internal, we could say make up our current experience. And we can allow them to be all just exactly as they are. And perhaps we can also notice that there are these different sensory inputs, and there's something that notices them. What notices them is not the inputs themselves, right? But there's something, some noticing, some awareness of whatever those inputs are. So at first we were focusing on the inputs, sensing into those. And now we can just pull our attention back to what is noticing those inputs rather than the inputs themselves. Because there's some capacity, all of us have it completely, that is aware of whatever sensations that we happen to be noticing. So we can become just more curious about what's observing them rather than what's being observed, right? It's shifting our attention back from the objects, back to what is noticing the objects, whatever they are, whatever's appearing. Thoughts, feelings, sounds, sensations. You could say all of those are appearing within this awareness that is already present. So we can go looking for where that awareness arises from, right? So we were all taught in high school or earlier that place where it arises from is our brain. But if we look to our own direct experience rather than what we were told, can we say for sure that that is the source of it? Can we pinpoint it somewhere in our head as being the source of this awareness? A particular place. But if we check out another place in our body, let's just take our chest, our heart perhaps. Is there not awareness there also? And if we find that awareness also seems to be present there, we're not talking about, a feeling or a thought about or a concept. We're talking about just our direct sensation of, we could ask it another way, is awareness absent from any place in our body? Or would it be more true to say that anywhere we look, it appears to be there? So this is just in your own direct experience. It's not about getting the right answer. Your experience is the right answer. Okay, so if that sense of awareness, presence, you could say, exists within the body, is there a clean, sharp demarcation at our skin? It exists, this sense of awareness exists this side of my skin, but not an inch outside. This isn't a biology question, or it's not a philosophical question, it's just a direct experience question. Or would it be more true to say that awareness seems to be in the vicinity? If it's not defined by the limits of our skin, is it defined by a particular edge outside of us somehow? Particular shape or size? Or is it more true to say, well, I can't quite claim that. But there is this awareness present. So does this awareness have let's say, a color to it? How about an age? Or do we have to go back to memory to remember how old we are? But the awareness itself, does it feel like it has aged over a lifetime, or does it feel like there was something essential about our most intimate selves that has always been present? As a child, as a teenager, as an adult? Bodies change, certainly. Facts change, circumstances change, but is there something that feels like it's sort of always been who I am all along? How many toes does this awareness have? Or again, do we have to go back to the mind to remember? So does this awareness have any particular form? So what we're pointing to here is something without form, without the sense of having changed over time. Another word for not changing over time might be eternal. Right, so now we're talking about formless, eternal. And one of the questions we can ask ourselves at this point is there any separation between my deepest self and this formless, eternal awareness? Is it possible that that could be what I essentially am? That eternal beingness. Living through this form, having this experience. And it's okay not to know, right? Like we were saying last night, not knowing opens us up to possibilities. Like if we don't know, it's possible just to consider, I wonder if that's actually true. How would that change how I look at things if that were true? How would I look at my conditioning or my perceived limitations if that were true? Again, I'm not suggesting that we believe anything just because it has some good points to it. Simply to open ourselves up to the possibility of considering it, in our own direct experience. That's the possibility. So if it is what we essentially are, or whatever it is that is essentially what we are, would it not have to exist in this moment? As in all other moments. Without being dependent on a high state. But that which we essentially are, being available, present for whatever state arises. Including this one, however that shows up for you in this moment. But that capacity for awareness allows us to have the experience of hearing the birds, hearing the fans, sitting, breathing, thinking, feeling. And that capacity is utterly astonishing. We may not be able to understand it like we can understand how to work our phones, but we can recognize it and we can learn to live from that recognition. That's the possibility. So the invitation here is just to allow a deep relaxation into that space of being aware knowingly for whatever experience presents itself. Without the mind's need to understand it or interpret it or like it or not. Just to be totally with that experience as is.